Okay, today we are doing Toasty Toes, the symptoms of an autoimmune disorder called Raynaud's is that you are very sensitive to the cold. Your fingers turn red or white or blue. We're not talking about the normal pink. We're talking about red. And they stay that way. They turn white and they stay that way. And sometimes they turn blue and they stay that way. The cold in the fingers and the toes can hurt. You can sit in front of a fire and still not get warm. It takes a lot for cold to affect you that deeply. But if you do not alleviate the cold before it penetrates very deeply, it can get lodged inside. Your body acts like an insulator. You have several layers of tissue that acts like an insulator. It's another wall, a wall of skin, yeah, then a wall of fat, then a wall of muscle. And the less fat you have, the less insulation you have. An insulator doesn't care if the cold is outside or inside. Just think of your walls with insulation. If it's cold outside and you have insulated walls, the cold usually won't come inside your house. If your house is cold on the inside and you have insulation on your walls, the cold won't leak outside, won't go outside. So if you allow your tissues on the outside to become cold, and then you allow the next layer of fat to become cold, you let your muscles become cold, they get stiff. And after that stiffness, then you get chilled down to the bone. When you get chilled down to the bone or down to the blood, and the blood flows all through your organs, now you have an internal cold. You have internal problems. The blood will not move as efficiently or as fast, and your body won't let the cold out. Furthermore, if you compound anxiety on top of this, and your blood vessels constrict and get very thin, and not a lot of blood is flowing through them, blood brings heat. So you'll have less heat, plus the cold you let in your body, plus the insulation that you have will not let the cold out. And it's a compounding effect. When will your fingers turn red, white, or blue? When will it turn red? Red is oxygenated blood cells. Blue is deoxygenated blood cells, and white is no blood, or very little blood. So the white makes sense, no blood, and it's cold, and it hurts. The blue makes sense, deoxygenated blood, no metabolism, it's cold. Why is the red still cold? Well, you can turn a grill on, put a big frozen piece of tofu on there. The outside will get burnt, the inside will still be ice, because you've let the ice and the cold go so far inside through a cold diet, through cold foods you don't know you're eating. And then your job could be work in a freezer. But some people work early in the morning outside. That's also cold. Another thing that cold does, which is a small problem, is that sometimes instead of being painful, it goes straight to numb instead of being painful. Toasty Toes will help with all of that. When the inside is cold, so much so that it's chronic, Toasty Toes will help with that. You may get steroids for this condition, Raynaud's. They like to prescribe steroids for anything they call autoimmune, even if it doesn't solve the problem, because they think it's some kind of inflammation. The joints are getting swollen because the circulation is poor, not because of inflammation, but because it's bigger. It's a mistake to call it inflamed because it's not hot, it's cold. And this is something that you can help people with because Western medicine does not have a good answer for Raynaud's. Corticosteroids or regular steroids or their catch-all, that's their catch-all for anything that they deem chronic or autoimmune, is that you have some kind of inflammation.
Right.
This is not inflammation, this is poor circulation. And oftentimes it is due to anxiety.
Oh.
Because a person cannot relax. Oftentimes it is due to anxiety plus a person eats too cold of a diet, or they've been exposed to too cold. And all because you don't feel cold doesn't mean you are not cold. So toasty fingers and toes, that red, white, and blue is the diagnosis for Raynaud's. Basically,
Okay.
when you go to the doctor, it's going to be a clinical diagnosis. You're going to complain that your fingers are sensitive to cold and they hurt. And they're going to ask you, do they turn color? And boom, there's your diagnosis. And this is your solution, Toasty Toes.
Okay.
It helps so many people with Raynaud's. It may not get rid of it because they still have anxiety, but they will feel a lot more comfortable and you will have helped them when no one else could. It has to be the kind of cold where they don't get warmed up by sitting in front of the fire. It can look like old people wearing heavy, heavy jackets and sweaters in the summer. They've run out of energy typically. So the people who worry have run out of energy typically.
Oh, no.
Because the heart is already trying to pump faster. Usually these people have like high heart rates, but they're on pakalolo. We call it pakalolo. Do you know that means weed in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're smoking their pakalolo, and so their pulse is slow artificially. So you can misdiagnose this if they lie to you and they say they don't smoke weed. CBDCs may have similar effects, you know? CBD.
Yeah.
CBD, not CBDCs. CBDs, yeah, CBDs. Too much crypto. Yeah. So their pulse might be slow.
Oh,
Because of
artificially.
when they just smoked, you know, their pulse might be artificially slow. That doesn't mean their heart is strong. They should not exert themselves in the sun. They should not do hot yoga. They should avoid hot situations, but they want to because their fingers are cold, but nothing really helps. They get better for a little while and then it hurts again. And usually when they get upset. So they're gonna try to warm up in many ways and they might hurt their heart. So you have to be careful. If they're smoking, it's hurting their heart even more. And this can really help them feel like they're more in control. In addition to them being probably emotionally sensitive, now their fingers hurt, you know, like it just builds up. And you can help them at least one at a time.
So what should the pulse be like?
It's not as important as the fingers and toes.
Okay.
But if you think about, you never took pulse class, right? So we can say in general, a cold pulse is thin because it's constricted and slow.
Okay. The end.
The end.